Welcome to the Virtual Flower Show 2021.
Hello, welcome to the Virtual Flower Show Roundup. As we look around the 3D Plant Societies and Sundries Hall, let me tell you about what we have to come. We have inspirational plants for you to try out. We have highlights from our gardening question and answer sessions. We also have advice on the best compost to use for your cacti and succulents. Lynn Dibley will be giving us a guided tour of the National Collection of Streptocarpus. We'll see the wild species that have given birth to the beautiful houseplants that we grow today.
Want some top recommendations for your garden and houseplants? Here are our experts' favourite varieties for spring 2021.
The Tinnisburn Plants Plant of the Year 2021 has got to be Pulmonaria angustifolia azurea. This is a fantastic hardy perennial that blooms reliably every spring from March right through April with these really rich, intense blue flowers. It's a wonderful plant for partial to full shade. It's totally hardy and it forms fantastic ground cover in slightly shady areas of the garden, particularly under shrubs and trees.
Hi, I'm Don Billington and I'm from Every Picture Tells a Story, who specialise in bromeliads, more commonly the air plants. My favourite one at this moment in time is this one, and we call this one Curly Slim. And the beauty of this is the drier the plant gets, the more it curls. When you water it, all the leaves sort of coming out. It can get a little bit taller as well. Doesn't need to be in soil again, just mount it somewhere and you're away.
Hello, I'm Alec White from Primrose Hall Peonies. One of my favourite peonies at this time of year is Peony Coral Sunset, which has just been awarded the AGM by the RHS, the Award of Garden Merit, because it's an absolutely outstanding performer in the garden and it's super reliable. I can't recommend it highly enough. This is what they look like in the nursery right now with these bright red shoots and wonderful dark green foliage, and when it flowers it will look like this with deep cerise pink flowers which will fade to salmon, then to coral. It will eventually fade through lemon and into cream. It's an absolutely incredible plant that changes colour as it matures. It makes an excellent cut flower and it will grow anywhere in full sun or part shade, in any free draining soil, and remember, plant it at the correct depth.
Hello, my name's Tracy from Alstroemeria Select. My favourite plant is the Alstroemeria pandora. It has lovely purple mauve petal. Mauve flowers also have specks of black and yellow. A tall variety, so makes a perfect cut flower.
If you ask 10 different cactus and succulent growers what they grow their plants in, the likelihood is you're going to get 10 different answers. The main requirement for cacti and succulents is that the compost, or the mix that they're growing in, should be very free draining. What I'm going to show you today is the general compost mix that I use for all my plants. So my mixture comprises of equal amounts of John Innes No. 3 compost, and grit sand, mixed together with half that amount of grit. You can either use a trowel if you're using a larger amount, or for a small amount like this, it's quite often easier just to mix it with your hands. Make sure you get a good thorough mixing of all the components. It's quite a good idea if you've got a large mix of plants in your collection to have one type of compost that you use throughout the entire collection. That often helps in terms of watering, because the time it takes for the compost to dry will be the same throughout the entire collection. Obviously, sometimes when people specialise, they may vary their compost and their growing regimes for different types of plants. There are lots of other materials that people use to grow their plants as well. Some people use pumice, some people add limestone to the mix, some people have more organic material, and a lot of that will depend on the types of plants that you're growing. A couple of other materials that you can get from garden centres that are quite useful sometimes are a couple of lightweight materials. We have Perlite, which is this sort of white lightweight material, looks a bit like polystyrene bits, and we also have Vermiculite. Again, another mineral type material, but very lightweight and can be quite useful if you're trying to pot up a big plant that's going to be very heavy if you have a lot of grit and stuff in the soil. The important thing is to find out what works under your conditions, because what works for somebody on a windowsill will be different to what works for somebody in a greenhouse or a conservatory and so on. But whatever mix you decide to use, don't forget, enjoy growing your plants.
Time to daydream about beautifully made bespoke greenhouses, glasshouses and orangeries from Griffin Glasshouses. Here's a flavour of some of the live guided tours and talks we had at the show.
And if you come through, like so, you can have a little look around there, and I'll walk you through with this. First thing, what would hit you if you ever come to have a look at it is this is the collection of Varieties that we have, all different types and all different sizes. Inside this as well, we have some of the Gaudias, which is a new species. You will see that we have an awful lot of the Tillandsia hanging around the place, as well as other little bits that we're growing for people as well. But this is like our little display of Varieties. We have got some more as we go further on.
So the first thing you need to do to successfully grow plants from seed is to get some really good quality seeds. And most important is to keep it in the fridge. So Delphinium seed, as you can just about see them in that packet, it's quite small. It's about the size of a pinhead, give or take. Not very big, and it goes off quite quickly. But if you keep it in the fridge, it will last a good few years. Okay, and as long as you keep it in something airtight and dry and cool, it'll last you a few years. The society, the Delphinium Society, produce a seed list every year. We have 1 or 2 species on the list, and then lots of seed saved from plants, named cultivars. And we also have seed that is the result of hybridizing as well.
Another little bit of a display. Now, a lot of the props that you'll see as we go through this area, we've used at the various flower shows. So this bike has been at both Harrogate and Cardiff Flower Show with the tulips. We displayed at Cardiff Flower Show for about 5 years with tulips. Harrogate, we've been displaying there for about 8 or 9 years, I think now. I love this colour combination. So here we have a variety called Ronaldo, which is a real deep burgundy purple sort of colour, next to this vivid orange colour called Ballerina. And together they work fantastically well. They're such a good colour combination.
On the nursery, we use no pesticides at all, and we haven't done since 2019. But one thing we do work with here with nature is biological control. So this is macromite. We also use nematodes, and we use these throughout all that growing, and so they travel with the plants. So when you buy our plants, they're introduced into your garden as well. And we do this obviously working with nature and trying to protect the bee population. The same as obviously you quite often look for, it'll be really good for pollinating insects. We sort of work with nature here as well to protect that for you.
This is a bench of species Streptocarpus we keep in the greenhouse. We collect the seed every year to form part of our national collection. These ones here are Streptocarpus coalescens, and it's what's termed as a stemmed Streptocarpus with its visible tall stems. They grow up to about 40 to 50 centimetres in height if you allow them. You can pinch them back so it keeps them shorter and more stocky. Then another form of Streptocarpus are the unifoliates, single leaf varieties. They vary in size from the really, really big ones like these, which are about 30 centimetres in length. That is Streptocarpus grandis. And then some smaller ones here with the pale blue flowers. They have nice big heads of flowers. This is trabeculatus, which is a smaller leafed unifoliate. And then this one here is denticulatus. It gives off a red dye on the back of the leaf if you're not careful, and you can stain your fingers. This is a nice little rosulate variety. The rosulate ones tend to be the ones you see in the garden centres, rosettes, but this variety, Cyanandrus, is actually an annual, so we definitely have to keep the seed from it each year. Then we have a range of rosulate varieties. It's still early in the year for them to come into flower, so not much colour on them at the moment. Most of the species varieties only tend to have whites, blues, pale blues, and sort of off pink flowers anyway. And this white flowering variety, Quenteniensis, very small flowers but masses of them, and this is the one variety that flowers more in the winter time than it will in the summer. And here we have some more of the stemmed species and some of the stemmed hybrids as well. So the blue one at the back there is Glandulosissimus. And then this white one is actually a hybrid, white butterfly. This one here has masses of little blue flowers, Kirkii. And then this one has beautiful stems, Thomsonii. The stems get quite thick and fleshy. Glandulosissimus. This can be quite a big growing variety if you let it grow away really well, but you can pinch it back and it will keep quite a nice tight plant. Pale pink one here is Coalescens parlescens, which tends to have quite a fleshy leaf. Overall, I think we got about 60 plus of the species varieties, so quite a collection.
We were expecting to be able to go to Chelsea in May, but then it was postponed. But we're really glad to be able to tell everyone that the show will still go on, because here at the nursery we have enough room to be able to put up what would have been our last display at Chelsea Flower Show, and we're going to be doing it along with Candide's Festival of Flowers, which is running right the way through May. The display that we're going to put up is going to be done to the same exacting standards as we would do up at the Chelsea Flower Show in front of the RHS judges. And we are wanting to make sure that it is built and ready to be previewed on what would have been the preview day, which is the 17th of May 2021. The display will be made into the Festival Flower Garden, and this can be viewed via live links and videos on candygardening.com throughout the week while it is the show time. For those of you who'd love to come and see the garden for yourselves and stroll around and take time just looking at the beauty of it, then there is going to be the possibility of being able to book socially distanced timed slots, and we are hoping we'll be able to be open to people for at least 3 weeks, because with it being outside we can keep it maintained and looking really good. Because we will be building it with plants in containers, we will at the end of that time have to take it down. We will then turn it into a wildflower garden. The main idea of the big display this year is pollinators, all sorts of insects that are beneficial to our gardens. There will be trees, there will be hedging, there will be seating, and the wonderful arch structure will all be there for people to see in years to come. We really hope that this garden is a fitting tribute and a fond farewell to Chelsea after 3 decades of being there and exhibiting to the top standards.
Now for a look around the virtual floral hall. Remember that most of these nurseries have plants for sale on the website.
Our gardeners' question and answer sessions have proved exceedingly popular at the show. Martin is back to host another session.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to day 2 of the Virtual Flower Show 2021. My name's Martin Fish and I'm with you this morning because we're going to have a gardening question and answer session, and our panel members here before you are all well-known exhibitors that you'll see at all the flower shows across the UK in normal times. You probably didn't see them last year, but hopefully they'll be back out on the circuit again later this year. But for now, we've managed to get them all here. All their lovely advice is here for you to pick on. So I will introduce them in no particular order. We've got Vicky Fox from Plantagogo, surrounded by lovely heucheras behind us. We've got Lynn Dibley from Dibleys, the houseplant specialist, and that looks like a lovely Streptocarpus there, Lynn. Yeah. We've got Matt Soper from Hampshire Carnivorous Plants, Alec White from Primrose Hall Peonies, Steve Hickman from Hoyland Plant Centre, and Rob Evans from Pheasant Acre. So that's the panel that we've got, and we've had loads of questions in overnight. So we'll get cracking with them, and we're going to find out a bit more about growing plants from all these specialist growers again. So in no particular order, Alstroemeria's a question here, so I think this one might be for you, Alec. This is from somebody called Y Cycler, and they would like to plant some Alstroemerias in the garden, but they've been advised by a friend that they are very vigorous and will take over the garden. They actually want them to grow them as cut flowers, so they're a little bit wary, so they want to know if all varieties are invasive, and if they can plant them without them taking over the garden. So what do you think, Alec?
Well, that's a good question, and it's a question that we get asked quite a lot. The older varieties of Alstroemeria, Orontiaca and such forth, the big tall orange ones, and you've got a yellow one as well, are great for cutting, but they really do run, particularly if you've got very light soil. So if you've got light soil, I would definitely avoid those. But the newer cultivated varieties that you'll see around tend to clump up, and they don't tend to spread. So if you want a tall one, a yellow one, a good one for cut flower. Friendship is a good one. There's Evening Song, there's Pandora. There's lots of varieties that get 2'6", 3 foot tall, so they make a good cut flower, but actually they're not going to run. Mostly in the garden centre, you'll find the dwarf ones, the intercantia varieties, which are great for pots and things, but they don't get very tall, so they're not so good for cutting. So look out for the tall ones, yeah.
I grow one in my garden, which is called Indian Summer, which you do see in the garden centre, and it's probably a mid-height. It doesn't get to 3 feet, but it certainly gets to 2 feet, 2 feet. And they do make brilliant cut flower because they last for ages and ages in a vase, don't they? So
they really do. And Indian Summer is particularly interesting because it has that wonderful dark bronze leaf with the orange flower, which is so different. So yeah, that makes a really good cut flower.
Okay, right, thank you for that one, Alec. Moving over to Matt, because I think this is probably a Matt question. This is about Saracenia, and this comes in from Darren. He wants to know, should he remove the flowers on his Saracenia? I think they're just starting to form at the moment. The reason he asks is because he's been told it helps to do it with the Venus flytrap. So he wonders whether he should also do it with his Saracenia.
Yeah, it does help a lot with the Venus flytrap. The flower scape is about 2 foot long, and it takes a lot of energy from the plant. And so by removing the flower in a Venus flytrap, you get much bigger traps, bigger leaves, which is what you want the flytrap for. It's a foliage plant. For the Saracenia, we remove the flowers mainly because the flowers come up first, followed by the pitchers. And when the pitchers come up, they sometimes get caught underneath the flowers and distort and bend. So when we put a display on at the flower shows, it's a foliage display. So we remove the flowers for that reason only. I don't find it makes any difference in the growth of the plant by removing the flowers. So if he likes the flowers, leave them on there. If he's not that keen on them, remove them. It's entirely up to him, but it doesn't affect the growth of the plant.
Yeah, because I think the flowers on a Saracenia are quite attractive, aren't they? You know, those biggish round flowers on a stalk. I think I'd leave them. I leave them on mine, to be fair. Yeah. But basically what you're saying is it's your choice. It's not going to harm the plant.
No, I mean, the ones that stay on the nursery that don't go to flower shows have all got their flowers on them. It's only the ones we take to, when we get round to Chelsea, we remove them all because they're a little bit tired compared with the foliage. I mean, it's an added bonus. You get really nice flowers and nice foliage. There aren't many plants that do that. So, yeah, I'd leave them on there, I would personally.
Okay, right, there you go. That's your answer, Darren. It's entirely up to you, but yeah, that's the advice from the top man there. Right, Tommy G has sent a question in about heucheras. Well, he's got an area in his garden, quite a biggish area that's in dapple shade, and he wants to plant ground cover. So he loves heucheras. And he's looking ideally for ones that are more spreading rather than sort of small compact plants. He wants something that is going to cover this area to give a dense ground cover. So are there any that are more suitable for that, Vicky, than others?
Yeah, I mean, we have trailing ones, which are only trailing because we put them, well, they're actually heucherellas, they're not heucheras. They're a cross between a tiarella and a heuchera, but they're exactly the same thing, love exactly the same conditions, and they're great. They have quite long trailers on them. And so in effect, what they actually are is creeping ones that we've just all decided to put in a hanging basket, really, and call them trailers. So they actually come from the tiarella, the trailing tiarellas, which creep around in the forest and everything that they're grown in North America. So they're ideal, and you get them in lovely colours as well. Every year there seems to be another new variety come out of a trailing variety, which you can use as creeping, and they'll get 2 to 3 foot spread on those as well. There's also bigger heucheras as well. You can get ones that are like 3 foot across. Like the Velosa types, such as guacamole and mega caramel and everything as well. So they cover a large area. But the nice thing about the trailing creeping varieties are, although they will root, they don't like sucker down. So if you suddenly change your mind and think, gosh, I want to get rid of these, you can you can take them out. You're not going to have a big jump on your hand to get rid of them.
Okay, well, that's good. So they would give him that lovely carpet, like a forest carpet in this area, wouldn't it?
Yes, yeah. Things like Yellowstone Falls, Redstone Falls, those sorts of varieties. But if you look on the website, it tells you all of those. So if you want to know a bit more, you can always email.
I haven't come across the trailing ones before, Vicky. So if you were doing like a perennial hanging basket, would they trail down the side of a hanging basket or a wall manger?
Yes, yeah, they'll get 2 to 3 foot trailers on them. They get a bit tatty after the winter, and actually we suggest in the autumn just taking a little bit off the length. 2 to 3 foot when they mature. It do take a couple of years to mature, but they start trailing almost straight away. And if you get tatty at all, just take the scissors to them and just tidy them up. You know, you can take a foot off them if you want to, and it just makes them bushier.
Okay.
Yeah. They're really easy.
Right, yeah. And where would he get these from?
Well, funnily enough, as you need, trying to get them.
Right. So on your website, jolly good.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, thanks, Vicky. Good. Right, we've got a question about houseplants. So I'm looking at Lynn there with her Streptocarpus. This is from Jean, and Jean says she remembers her grandma growing a plant, and it had pretty flowers. She used to grow them on the windowsill. She thinks it was called a hot water plant, and she wants to know if that is right, and if so, are they easy to grow, and how do you grow them, and why are they called a hot water plant?
Yes, they are Achimines, which are a related plant to Streptocarpus, and they grow through the spring and summertime and then die back for the winter. And they die back to little rhizomes. They're sort of like generally about 2 to 3 centimeters long. They look like little white or brown maggots almost. And the theory was in the Victorian times that you needed hot water to get them growing again in the spring. So that's where they got the common name from, the hot water plant. But basically you just need to plant them, the rhizomes again in the springtime, and they come back again once the temperature in the pot's about 15, 16 degrees centigrade.
Right. Hence the hot water, presumably, was it to get them started?
Yeah, I mean, what you can do, you can put them in like a warm airing cupboard just until the sprouts start showing, and then put them on the windowsill. But if you put them, try and start them on a cool windowsill, they will be very slow. So you do need warmth to get them going. And then once they start growing, they grow into like bushy plants with tall stems. generally about 30 to 40 centimetres in height, and they have colours of flowers from pinks, whites, yellows, purples. They're quite a broad range of varieties in there now.
Yeah, I remember we used to grow them when I was an apprentice on the park, and because the little rhizomes look like little maggots, don't they?
Yeah, easily to be confused with something like vine weevil grubs as well. So you have to be a bit careful, because also if you do have vine weevil around, they will go through something like the rhizomes in the pots through the winter time. So you're best in the autumn, as the plant dies back, take the rhizomes out of the compost, store them frost-free for the winter in a dark place, and then re-sow them late springtime once it starts warming up again.
Okay, lovely. Right, so look out for those, and again, I'm sure they'll be available on a website at a houseplant specialist near you, won't they? Good. Right, thank you very much. Jolly good. Right, question here from Pete Wilkinson about clivias, and it's a very short question to the point. Why won't my clivia flower? I've had it 4 years and never a flower. I want you to know, Steve, this is a genuine question. It's not one I've made up, because look, I'll just get my clivia here. So it's not me asking this question on behalf of somebody else. So mine is in full flower. So why isn't this clivia from Pete Wilkinson flowering? What might he be doing wrong after 4 years to get no flower?
Right, a simple answer as well. Clivias are the same family as the Agapanthus, Amaryllidaceae, and we all know that Agapanthus do flower initially better if they're pot bound. The same with the clivia. The clivia likes to be underpotted rather than overpotted. So pot them on every 2 years into acidic compost, very well drained, and leave them. Don't be tempted to pot them into too big a pot. That's the first thing. But the two main things is in the autumn time, between September and October, they do like a cold spell of about 8 to 10 weeks below 10 degrees. So if you're growing clivias in your house, take them outside onto a shady patio or somewhere in the garden under a tree, bring them in before the frost and give them a bit of a chill. That will set the bud in the base for flowering in spring. Keep them on the very dry side, December, January, that's the resting period. And then come February, start keeping them moist, which is watering probably once, twice a week, depending how warm your room is, and start to feed. The feed is quite important. Your cold spell puts the bud in the base, the feed brings the stem up above the foliage and it flowers well. If you don't feed properly, it often flowers in the centre of the rosette of leaves and you can't see it, or it'll not bother flowering at all. And that's it in a nutshell, really.
So it may be, we don't know, we can't ask Pete, but it might be that if he's been growing them in a warm house all through the year, they're not getting that chill, which is initiating the flower bud. So
and you must feed, yeah.
Okay.
Feed a general purpose feed, good balanced house food, slightly on the higher potash side, and you can't go wrong with them. They really thrive on the in the sunshine. A shade of windowsill or in your room where ivies or ferns grow is ideal. And if you want further information on our website, Something for the Garden.
Okay, because you are a bit of a specialist in clivia. Have you got the national collection, Steve, now?
Yeah.
I thought
we've got probably about 10,000 clivias.
Just a few. Okay. Jolly good. Right, thank you. Right, the only person that's not asked the question in this first round is Rob. So it's your turn now, Rob. So this is because you grow all types of bulbs and dahlias, but this is about gladioli, which I know is something that you specialise in. This is from, I haven't actually got a name for this one, I do apologise, but it's they want to know when is the best time to plant gladioli corms, because they want them to flower in late August for a family occasion. So they want to try and get their timing right. Now, I don't know whereabouts they are in the country either, so that probably doesn't help. So
that's a little just an idea on gladiolis. When they're purchasing corms, you want to get a decent size corm to start with, to flower late in the season. Now, smaller corms flower quicker. It's surprisingly, the smaller the corm you plant, the earlier they'll flower. They'll flower in about 90 days. But to get flowers for the end of August, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want to be planting around about the second week of May, because the ground is a lot warmer at that time. And once the corm breaks through the ground and germinates up through the ground, hopefully if we got normal conditions and we got nice sunny weather, the only thing is make sure that they water well just before the sheath is coming through. So feeling the stem, normally you've got 7 or 8 leaves on the spike itself, and you'll feel the flower stem coming up through the middle. It's like a swelling between the leaves. And when that's there, that's when they need to water. So that's normally around about a month before you think about the flowers. So that's an ideal time then. But the best time for planting gladiola is from about the middle of April till the end of May to get a sequence of flowers from the beginning of August right the way through till the end of September.
Right, so it might be worth doing that as well, rather than just
exactly
them all in one go, staggering it over a few weeks. So there's always going to be something in flower for
we have this year. We have a customer who's got 2 weddings. Unfortunately, he said he got 2 daughters and they're both getting married. He said one the beginning of August and one the beginning of September, and he's bought 200 gladioli corms and he's hoping to get them all in flower for both weddings. So he's planted from, as I told him, start planting in the middle of May and go right the way through till the end of, the middle of April until the end of May, and he should get flowers for both weddings.
Lovely, that's great. Well, thank you everybody, and thank you everybody for watching the virtual flower show. There are other things happening, of course, and please do keep supporting our specialist growers and exhibitors. We've got some fantastic growers in the UK and we need to hang on to that expertise. So they've all got websites that you can check and look at. So thank you very much and have a good gardening year. Goodbye and thank you everybody.
Thank you.